Welcome, everybody. The NFL season is over, which means it's time to look ahead to the 2023 NFL Draft. I'm Joe with the Game House, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Cleveland Browns and a 2023 NFL mock draft. The Cleveland Browns are up in our 2023 NFL Mock Draft Series. As a reminder, we're going to be using the NFL Mock Draft Database Simulator. They're pretty good because they use kind of the internet's big boards kind of to stack where players are going to go. I like them for that reason. There will be players who fall in this mock draft, but at the end of the day, I do like it. We also are going to have no trades being accepted in this draft, which is with these simulators, it's tough for them to have accurate trades go through. So we're going to take a look at the picks that the Browns currently have right now and see if they can improve the team. So the Browns last year did not make the playoffs. They had traded for Deshaun Watson. Jacoby Brissett stepped in for the first 12 games. Deshaun Watson was a little bit rusty when he came back, but they still have a lot of nice pieces that can make them competitive in that tough AFC North, especially with everything going on with Baltimore. There's a chance that they can maybe sneak into the playoffs next year. Good offensive line. If Deshaun Watson knocks the rust off, you still got Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, wide receiver. Need some more there. And then on the defensive side of the ball, there's a couple of places that need to be filled, right? Like they got a defensive lineman they need to go get in this draft. I would say they probably could use another linebacker, although they did bring in Anthony Walker in free agency. And you know, I think their secondary didn't play that great last year, but they have two good corners. We'll see what they can do if they can add something else there as well. As you can see on the team needs section on the NFL Mock Draft Database Simulator, they have defensive line as a need. They have a wide receiver as a need. They have edge as a need. They did get Ogbonnaya Okoronkwo in free agency, so to go across from Myles Garrett after they lost to Jadeveon Clowney. We'll see if they can figure that out. They also might need a running back behind Nick Chubb. Kareem Hunt is still a free agent as we speak right now, so we'll see what they can do there. Maybe a backup tight end as well. Maybe, like I said, a linebacker. So we'll get it started here with the Cleveland Browns. Now, they do have their first pick will be pick number 74, which will be in the third round. This isn't the greatest draft class, but I think there might be some guys who can fall to them that can really help them out next year. This is a team that is not going to be needing too much to get back to where they need. The biggest thing they really want to happen is just have Deshaun Watson come back and be what he used to be before he had to sit out. So here we are, pick number 74. Derek Hall would be a really good pick for them. A guy who I think could be probably gone in the second round, but I do think there's other needs on the table here. Defensive lineman to be specific, and also wide receiver. Like, yes, you traded for Elijah Moore, and Donovan Peoples-Jones has shown some decent promise, but I think you need to set up Deshaun Watson as best as possible. And for that reason, I'm going Cedric Tillman here. I think he's a good outside receiver. Now, Jalin Hyatt got all the hype this past season for Tennessee. That is fair because he had 5 touchdowns against Alabama on 6 catches, and he's really fast. But Cedric Tillman was the leading returning receiver in the SEC last year, but he got hurt, and that kind of affected things. So I think he's a good receiver. I think he'd be successful as a pro. I actually have him rated higher than Jalin Hyatt. Jalin Hyatt, to me, is all speed. Cedric Tillman has some size. He's got some more receiver skills, in my opinion. So I think that's a good pick for the Browns to get a guy who I think you can slot in and play wide receiver for him with Amari Cooper, with Elijah Moore, and with Donovan Peoples-Jones. All right, pick number 98. Again, we're looking for maybe a defensive lineman. Doesn't seem to be any that are even close to being in range. Byron Young would be one to take. Maybe he's a guy who kind of fills his role. Carl Brooks I do like. Maybe just a little bit too early, depending on what else is left on the board. So let's go with Zach Harrison, the edge rusher out of Ohio State. He's a big edge rusher, a guy who I think Ohio State fans would admit that did not ever really fully put it together and reach his potential at Ohio State, but he has some tools you can work with. And at pick number 98, you're not necessarily getting a guy who can start right away. So get him some reps early, see if he can develop into something behind Myles Garrett, behind Ogbonnaya Okoronkwo. All right, so next one up here, we have pick number 111. There's some guys at the top of the board that I think are worth considering. Again, looking for a defensive lineman here. Byron Young's more in range now, so I'm going to take him. There are other options, but they do have pick number 126 and 140 to get some of these guys that maybe are at the top of the board. But I do think that defensive line is a bigger need. So I'll go Byron Young, guy who's just going to fill his role. I don't think he'll ever turn into a star or anything, but will probably just be a guy who does his job. Will come in early, ready to play for the Browns out of Alabama. All right, so next one up, we have pick number 126. At this point, I do think it's good to get a running back for this offense behind Nick Chubb. What if he goes down? You've had that 1-2 punch running back for the last several years with Kareem Hunt there as well. So I'm going Zach Evans, the running back out of Ole Miss. Now, he did get injured this past year at Ole Miss. He formerly played at TCU. He's a guy who did not see a lot of carries after he got hurt because the freshman at Ole Miss was really good, Quinshon Judkins, who's going to be probably an early pick in 2 years drafts because he was just a freshman. But a guy who I think who can contribute at the next level. So next pick up at 140. There's definitely some corners down here we can take. There's interior linemen we can take, but I think they might be left, especially when you got to pick two picks away. So for that reason, let's go with Jair Brown, a guy who's fallen on draft boards because of his combine testing, but he's a really good football player. You can turn on the tape. A guy who I think could be very successful in the league. And again, pick 140, you're taking guys who you're basically taking flyers on. If they can provide depth at safety, great. If they turn into a starter, even better. But it's not something you should expect. So let's see what we get here at 142. The Browns have a good offensive line, but let's go with Andrew Voorhees, the interior offensive lineman from USC. He got some fame because he tore his ACL at the combine, but still followed through with the bench press. A guy who I think at the middle rounds of the draft is a good pick, could turn into a starter down the road if you lose some guys in free agency. But again, not a guy that's going to fill a glaring need right now, but could provide some depth. All right, so the next pick up here, let's go with Josh Whyle, the tight end out of Cincinnati. He's really been a good receiver for the Bearcats. He's not often used. A lot of tight ends in college aren't really used that much. Wasn't used a ton. There's another tight end from Cincinnati in this draft, Leonard Taylor as well, who is a pretty good tight end. But I think at this rate, you take him, see if you get anything out of him. And I think the next pick, we're going to be pretty easy here. I think you could go Dorian Thompson-Robinson. A lot of people think he'll go probably in the top 200 because he's a very good athletic quarterback. Get it back up for Deshaun Watson. But I think later in the draft, maybe get someone who can be a linebacker depth, Cam Jones, maybe provide some special teams value there, as you're going to need someone to play special teams for the next couple years here. Honestly, I like this draft for the Browns. You're not having the best draft capital here, right? Your first pick is 74, but you get some guys I think who can make an impact early on, and that when you don't have those second round pick, that is really impressive. So you get Cedric Tillman, the wide receiver out of Tennessee, big physical receiver, can be on the outside, while Elijah Moore's in the slot and while Amari Cooper's on the other side. Zach Harrison, a very big edge rusher, but never put it together at Ohio State. Byron Young, a guy who's just going to do his job on the defensive line. Zach Evans, a guy who, if you're taking at 126, I think he could be really more valuable than that. There's a lot of good running backs in this draft, so some of them are going to fall. But really, he's just going to be that backup to Nick Chubb this year. Jair Brown's fallen because of combine testing, but I think he could turn into a good pro. Andrew Voorhees might fall because of his injury at the combine, but he's really good interior lineman. And then Josh Whyle and Cam Jones, don't know if you're going to get anything out of these guys long term, but at least special teams value. We'll see if they can do anything with that. So let me know what you think of this draft down in the comments below. We're going to keep on doing our 2023 NFL mock drafts as the season goes on. For now, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.